Hello everyone, this is the CS Revelation. Welcome to a new video on Java. Today's topic is for loops. And to get started, let's take a look at an example. So suppose that our task is to print the word hello in the console window. So simply system out print line hello. Okay, let's run this, and this is what we get. We get the word hello printed. Now suppose that we wanted to print the word hello 5 times, then probably the easiest task is to repeat this task of printing once 5 times. So when we have 5 print statements, that means we're going to have 5 printouts, and we have 5 hellos here printed. Now how about this? What if I ask you to print the word hello 1,000,000 times? It becomes ridiculous, right? So there must be another way to achieve the repetition of a certain task more efficiently. Okay, so that way is called using loops. Now, the for loop, which we're talking about today, has the following format. It has a signature and a body. The signature part here has 3 expressions. So it starts with the keyword for, and then in parentheses we have 3 expressions. The first expression is for initializing, the second expression is the control expression, and the third one is the step expression. Now we use the initializing expression to say this is the first, this is the beginning of my iterations. It starts at a specific initial value. And then the control expression is what gets me out of the repetition process. If this condition is met, then we say that the loop is going to end the iteration process. Then we have the step expression, and we use this to specify by how much are we incrementing the iterator every other step. The body here is for the process or the statements that will be repeated for execution. So for example, here, this is the process of printing the word hello 5 times. Let's try to achieve the same thing using a for loop. So to achieve that, we will write a for loop. So start with the keyword for. In parentheses, we're going to put our 3 expressions. The first expression is the iterator. I'm going to declare any variable type, int I, I'm going to call it. Then with a semicolon, you are separating the expressions. The next expression is the control expression. So first, my I starts at 0, for example, or maybe 1. So you could choose any value. But then the control expression is going to tell us where to stop or end the iteration process. So I'm going to say when I is strictly or less than or equal to 5, end this iteration process or repetition process. And I'm going to say that I++ is the third expression. That means we're going to increment by 1, right? So starting at 1, ending at 5, incrementing by 1. So the iteration here could be, the step expression here could be any value that you choose. So you can increment by 2, by 3, by 4. It's all up to you and based on the logic that you're trying to achieve. And here goes the body. Okay, so that means what statement or what list of statements are we trying to repeat the execution for? Earlier, we repeated the one line of code, which is the system out print line. So this is the one line that we would like to achieve the repetition for. So let's eliminate this, or let's comment this out. So we're saying that this loop is going to execute this body, which is one line of code in this case, but starting at 1, ending at 5, incrementing by 1. So that means for each value of I from 1 to 5, I'm going to execute this line of code. So when I is 1, I'm going to execute this once. And when I becomes 2, because I'm incrementing by 1, I'm going to execute this next. Again, one more time. And then I becomes 3, I'm going to execute it again. Then I becomes a 4, execute one more time. And I becomes a 5, execute one more time. When I becomes a 6, this becomes false. Means that 6 is not less than or equal to 5. So my condition became false. Therefore, I end the looping process and exit out of the loop. So I'm going to achieve 5 repetitions here based on the values for my 3 expressions. So let's confirm that. So we run and we get 5 hellos. Now, you could play around with this. For example, say that we would like to achieve 100 repetitions. So you could do 100 as your control expression. Once this becomes false, we're going to end the looping process. Earlier I asked you to print 1 million times. Now you can actually print 1 million times. So I think this is 1 million. But you don't want to do that. I mean, this is going to be doable, but you don't want to crash your computer. And let's keep it simple and just put a smaller number. But I would like to also print the value of I. So instead of just printing hello, I also want to print the value of I. So I'm going to say print I in addition to the word hello. So by doing this, you're going to trace your for loop. So when you run this, notice that it prints the value of I for which we have executed this print statement, which has printed I and hello, printed the next I and hello, printed the next I and hello, and the final I that was printed is 10. Now, of course, I became 11, and that's what made this loop exit. We don't print the 11th I because it does not meet this requirement, which means it does not make this control expression true. So therefore, it's only going to be used to exit out of the loop. Okay, so we have achieved 10 repetitions here, and we have executed the body of the loop 10 times, and that's what results in repeating the printing process that number of times. Now, a little more about for loops. I just want to say that that in order for us to write a non-trivial computer program, we almost always need to use one or more loops. And loops allow our program to repeat groups of statements a specific number of times. They're classified as a type of iteration or repetition structure. In the previous video, we learned decision structures, but loops are classified as repetition structures. And it is important to be aware of how many iterations a given loop is expected to perform. So it is known about the for loop that it has a specific number of iterations. So it does not really have an undefined number of iterations. By looking at the signature here, you know how many iterations are you going to achieve. So I'm going from 1 to 10, and I'm making a step of 1. Definitely I'm going to have 10 iterations, 10 repetitions. So therefore, a for loop, it has a specific number of iterations. So use a for loop when you know exactly how many times a set of statements must be repeated. And it is called, the for loop, it is called determinate or definite loop because the programmer knows exactly how many times it will iterate. Now, you can mathematically determine the number of iterations by desk-checking the logic of the loop, and that is by looking at the 3 expressions. So you say, I'm going to end at 10, and I'm starting at 1, and I'm incrementing by 1. So you could start counting. You say 1, that's 1 iteration. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. In total, I'm going to have 10 iterations. So that's about the for loop. Now there's one more thing that I want to mention is that when declaring the iterator inside the loop here, this becomes a local variable to the for loop. So you cannot really use this variable outside the loop. So you see here we used it inside the loop because it's local. But if you were to use that variable outside the loop is not going to be allowed. So these are the boundaries of the for loop. Outside of it is outside those curly brackets. So for example, I want to print I right here. Let me attempt to print the value of I. Let's see what happens. So you see here it's underlined, telling me that's an error. That is because it says it cannot find symbol. The symbol is the variable I, which means that it's not visible at this level. It is only visible within the loop because it's a local variable to the loop. Okay. Now, if you wanted to achieve or make this variable global, so maybe you declare I outside the loop and then use it inside the loop and outside the loop, right? So when it's declared outside the signature of the loop, it becomes a global variable. That means any other set of instructions that is outside the loop will be able to have access to it. And let me confirm that. So notice that this is declared outside. So I used it inside the loop and I printed the word hello 10 times in addition to the values of I. And then I printed I after the loop, and that is 11, which made the loop exit, like I mentioned earlier. So this is one important thing about loops. Also, one common mistake that students usually end to make, which is that knowing that each line of code in Java ends with a semicolon, you may put a semicolon here stating that this is the end of this line of code, which is not true. You can end this line of code here, but that's going to make these two separate entities. So this will not belong to this. So this is not going to be recognized as the body of this loop, and this signature is not going to be the signature for this part. So this is just simply going to be printing the word hello and 11, and this is going to print 11. So technically this has iterated 10 times, but did not have any body to execute it for all those iterations. And this just simply executed this one line of code once, right? So be careful with this. No semicolon there. That is a no, and never do that mistake. One more thing also, that in Java, if you have just one line of code that is the body of the loop, you can eliminate the curly brackets because by default, if you are typing your code this way, by default, the body of the loop is going to be the next line that follows the signature. So right now, this is our code, but the next line, which is just this one, is going to be considered as the body of this loop. And this is not going to be part of the loop. That is because we have no curly brackets, therefore automatically just one line after the signature is going to be considered the body of the loop. And you notice here that we got the same outcome as before. Now, the curly brackets are important when you have multiple lines of code as part of the body of the loop. So you have a set of instructions that will be executed based on the iterations here. So say, for example, I want to print hello, and I'm going to print hello again, right? So now these two lines are now the body of the loop, and they will be iterated based on the loop signature. So you see, like, I repeated all of this because that was the body of the loop. So again, just remember that the curly brackets are used to specify the boundaries of the body of the loop. And if you don't have the curly brackets, only the next line of code that follows the signature is going to be considered the body of the loop. So this is, quick overview of for loops. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how to use a while loop. So I'll explain to you while loops. And also in another video, I'm going to take a look at do while loops. So 3 important loops in Java that we're going to cover in these 3 videos. Okay, so till the next one, I'll see you. Bye-bye.